Welcome into One of One Sports, the only one for your original sports takes, commentary, analysis, and of course, predictions. Today we continue our college football series, this time with the Oregon Ducks. Before we get started, if you enjoy this type of college football content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to hit 200 subscribers before the college football season begins. So if you can help me out, that would be much appreciated. Now let's get started. So as always, we like to recap what the team did last season before breaking down the roster. And last season, the Ducks went 12-0 in the regular season, claiming the number one overall seed in the college football playoff. They ended up finishing 13-1 after winning the Big Ten championship over Penn State, but then having to verse another Big Ten team in their first playoff game off a bye, they were soundly defeated by the Ohio State Buckeyes. A lot of positives from last season. Dillon Gabriel was great, and the Ducks had one of their best seasons in recent memory, even if it came with a disappointing ending in the playoff. Now, in terms of what this team lost from last season, it is a lot. They come in 43% returning production, 104th in the country, 16th out of 18th in the Big Ten. This includes losing Heisman contending quarterback in Dillon Gabriel to the NFL. Jordan James, your leading rusher. Essentially your top four receivers as you lose Tej Johnson to the NFL, along with Traeshon Holden, Terrence Ferguson, and then Evan Stewart, who is your third leading receiver and supposed to be maybe your best one this year, got injured during practice and is probably out for the whole season. Along with that, you are going to be breaking in new offensive linemen at four of the positions, only returning one starter there. On the defensive side of the ball, the defensive line was awesome last year, heavily depleted now. Derek Harmon, first-round NFL pick. Jordan Burch to the NFL. Jamari Caldwell as well, Then the linebacker unit lost Jeffrey Bassa. And then DBs, you lost Tysheem Johnson, Jabbar Muhammad, Kobe Savage. So there's just a lot of talent exiting the door for this Oregon Ducks football team that was so good last year. So the guys stepping in and who are returning will have big shoes to fill. Who is returning? Well, taking over for Dillon Gabriel is going to be an extremely talented quarterback in Dante Moore. Sat behind Gabriel last year after transferring in after his freshman season at UCLA. If you watched him at UCLA, it was really evident how much talent he had, even from week one. If I remember correctly, they played Coastal Carolina, and he wasn't the starter. I believe Ethan Garbers came in as the starter, and they put in Dante Moore, and he threw like a 70-yard touchdown pass on one of his first plays. It was really incredible. Then they gave him the starting spot, and eventually it kind of fell apart. One of the games they played Utah, he threw, I think, multiple pick sixes in one game. So it was clear he wasn't quite ready to be a starter as a true freshman, but the talent was there. And after sitting a year behind Gabriel in a system that's just had Bo Nix, that just had Gabriel, had a lot of quarterback success, I'm expecting big things from him. Noah Whittington also returns. He was your second leading rusher. Kenyon Sadiq returns at tight end. Looks to be one of the better tight ends in the country this year. And then you have a plethora of young receiver options who haven't done a whole lot yet, but have the talent. I'm talking Justice Lowe, Jeremiah McClellan, Kyle Casper, Jurion Dickey. Expect one of them to step up in this rotation. And then Gary Bryant's more of a veteran receiver who will be back as well. On the defensive side of the ball, the linebacker unit looks strong, returning Titum Tuioti, Bryce Betcher, and Devon Jackson. And on the D-line, Mateo Uyangale is the standout there as maybe the best edge rusher in the Big Ten. You also have return Amari Washington, and Elijah Rushing gives you depth at defensive end, former five-star rusher there. The secondary lost a lot, but Jaleel Florence looks to be a true number one corner for you on the back end. Getting into the additions, Mekhi Hughes transfers in from Tulane at running back. He's your new top running back for the program. And then you brought in a ton of super talented O-lineman transfers. Alex Harkey, Emmanuel Pregnone, and the best of them all is likely Isaiah World from Utah State. Already hype around him being a potential top pick in the NFL draft. And all these guys are super talented. We're standouts. They're going to be seniors. It's just about how much they can gel together. But the individual talent is clearly there. At receiver, you had Malik Benson from Florida State, Jamari Johnson, a tight end from Louisville, as veteran guys that can be, reliable, but probably aren't going to be stars. Someone with star potential is true freshman Decorey Moore. He's probably going to be your number one option as a true freshman, which is a lot to ask, but we saw Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams do it in stacked rooms last year. Decorey Moore is the number one wide receiver recruit, number 4 recruit in the country. He is that special, and you're hoping he has the ability to, as a true freshman, make a huge difference. Defensively, you had Bear Alexander along the defensive side of the ball It's never been a question of talent with Alexander, but just of commitment. Dylan Deneman's probably the second best safety in the conference, transferring in from Purdue. He's going to help your back end. Same with Darren Johnson, a cornerback from Northwestern. You also brought in outside Decorian Moore, your top four freshmen you're bringing in are all DBs in Naheem Oford, Brandon Finney, Trey McNutt, and Dorian Brew. They were the headliners, of course, alongside Decorian Moore in a recruiting class that was top 5 in the country. Now, let's get into the schedule. As for the strengths and weaknesses of this team, I do think the running back room is clearly a strength with Mekhi Hughes and Noah Whittington, and then just the overall talent and upside. Like Dante Moore, you're not positive he's going to be a strength of this team, but I think he's going to be one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the Big Ten. I have a ton of confidence in him. The O-line has maybe the highest upside of any O-line in the country in terms of individual talents, but we know that's a group that relies on cohesion. The receiving room, Decorian Moore is there, but also all those young guys I mentioned were highly touted recruits, but which ones can step up? Kenyon Sadiq and Jamori Johnson make up a good tight end tandem as well. Defensively, the defensive line, like Mateo Uyangale is there, but the other guys are kind of inexperienced. So overall, that's why inexperience comes in as a weakness. And then the secondary, even there's a lot of upside if you can get impacts from some of your top true freshman recruits. And then, of course, Jaleel Florence and Dylan Thieneman, at least strengthen it up enough so it's not too much of a weak point for the team. Getting into the schedule, Montana State is no challenge for the Ducks. Not much to say there. And then you host Oklahoma State, who's looking for a bounce back year after what was really, really bad. I do think they'll be an improved team, but not enough to step up to beat Oregon, who I look at as a true national title contender. Same with Northwestern. They were really bad last year. I think it can be better. You bring in Preston Stone, but this is not a team that's looking to compete with the top-end talented teams in the sport. You're going to win that one as well. Then you get your rivalry game against Oregon State team that's one of the better group of 6 teams, I guess, if we're calling them that. Malik Murphy there, Riley Williams, a good tight end. I actually like this team a lot, and it could be tricky, but you do get it at home. And look, I think Oregon State is going to be one of the better group of 6 teams. But if they were playing on a Power 5 level, I wouldn't, or I guess it's Power 4 now, I wouldn't be looking at them as a playoff contender or anything. Oregon has too much speed, I think. The wide receivers, I think, could do serious damage against an Oregon State secondary that I don't have the most confidence in. And I also think Mateo Uyangale has a good matchup here against Oregon State's offensive line. Look for him to wreak havoc on Malik Murphy to pick up your 4th win of the season before you go on the road to Penn State in a night whiteout game. This is your second road test of the season, but Northwestern is not going to be an environment anything like this. And when you have so many inexperienced parts like the O-line, this is going to be our first time seeing an environment like this. A lot of false starts, potential penalties there. Dante Moore, since he was at UCLA, he struggled in a road environment at Utah. This is going to be much worse. I could see mistakes there. Young receivers, I could see a lot of miscommunications. I could see that on the defense as well. And overall, I think Penn State being the more experienced team at home in an environment that's going to be tough to play in, I think Oregon picks up their first loss of the season. Off a bye, you play an Indiana team that should be pretty good. They have receivers to definitely challenge their secondary, and Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper. And Fernando Mendoza looks to be a quarterback who can get them the ball at a high level. I also think defensively, the Indiana secondary led by Pons should be pretty good. And I expect a competitive game here. Now, Oregon is at home, and you with an extra week to prepare, I typically like that from a better team. I think good teams typically good teams off a bye are typically going to win that game, especially if they're well coached. I believe in Dan Lanning as a coach, and I do think they're a slightly better team. So when you combine well-rested, home field advantage, and a slightly bigger talent edge, that makes it seem like a win in my book for the Ducks. You go on the road to Rutgers, who just doesn't have really the horses to match up with you speed-wise on the perimeter, or like either side. I don't think they can keep up with your receivers or have the receivers to burn your secondary. And I also think alongside the line of scrimmage, Oregon's going to be vastly superior. I don't really see an upset here. And then Wisconsin, last year they gave you a lot of trouble. This year, I'm not seeing it. Billy Edwards, I don't think is going to do much. They don't have receivers to challenge you. Even the O-line, I don't think is as strong as it usually is. And at this point in the year, I think Oregon is hitting their stride right before their last bye week of the season. Off the second bye, you have a tricky game on the road against Iowa, who should get improved quarterback play from Mark Gronowski, a transfer from South Dakota State. They all look to always have a good defense, of course, in Iowa, but the offense should be maybe better. You lose Caleb Johnson, but the quarterback plays upgraded, so it's hard to say there. but always a tricky game on the road. But I think at this point in the season, this is when Oregon's looking their most dangerous. We're in what, week 9 maybe at this point, maybe week 10. I think Dante Moore is fully like in his own now, looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. I think the O line is fully clicked together, is playing like one of the best units in the Big Ten. The receiver room has been established. You have your top go-to guys, reliable options, and of course the tight end room is going to be good all season. And I also think the secondary now has put it together. I think this is when Oregon is clicking, starting to look like a national title contender. They're going to be too much for the Hawkeyes. And then a home game against Minnesota, it's much of the same. Minnesota, I think, will have a pretty good team this year. They're really consistent, and I like PJ Fleck a lot as a coach. But going on the road on a Friday night against this Oregon team, not enough there. And then USC, I think, gets into sort of a shootout with them, as we've seen USC do in the past. Jaden Maeva, those receivers in Lemon and Lane, I can see them putting up some points. But even if USC's improved defensively, I don't think they're going to hold up against this Oregon team at this point in the season. Like, I'm just trying to emphasize, when all this talent comes together at the end, I think they're going to look like potentially the best team in the country. And I think they're beating USC. And then the tough road environment, I think this is going to be an example of how much this team has grown. From the Penn State game early on in the road, where you're going to see a lot of mistakes. Dante Moore probably going to struggle, false starts. In an environment that's almost as tough to play in a rivalry game at Washington, you're going to see such a cleaner performance. Dante Moore is going to be better. I think it's all just going to gel so much by this point in the year, and they're going to handle it so much better. And this is going to be a game that really alerts the country, like, okay, Oregon going into either the Big Ten championship game or the playoff, like, there, you got to watch out for them. I think they beat the Washington Huskies and finished 11-1. Well, that's my Oregon Ducks football prediction for 2025. If you enjoyed this, check out my other ones on the channel. We've done Ohio State, Penn State, Clemson, Miami. You might like them. And other than that, just comment down below. What do you guys think? Was I too high, too low? I love to see you guys interact. Until next time.